Hello, this is Sam Simon, and this is my blog for the week of June 21st, 2026. We're in the middle of um, Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. We're recording, just to note it, on Juneteenth. And I have a special guest. You can see her. She's there already, Julie Moore. And Julie and I've gotten to meet each other through Zooms of various organizations, but mainly, well, almost any Zoom of an Alzheimer's group on the internet these days. Julie and I show up and are on it there, and there are a number of them. And the occasion of our having her as a guest is she has been busy, almost as busy as Dementia Man, but not quite. Well, we won't compare. Uh, what I hope to do today, and say, well, first of all, say hello, Julie.
Hello.
And you live where?
I live in Southern California near Disneyland in a city called Irvine.
And just as I understand, well, why don't you say you do also have a diagnosis? I think it's similar to mine. And what is your diagnosis?
Mild cognitive impairment with Alzheimer pathology.
Now you use that phrase, and I notice on the noticed reading something that you do have Alzheimer's, early stage Alzheimer's disease, correct?
I have the tau and tangles in my brain. They are currently saying that it hasn't progressed to the point of being a true dementia yet, which would be the Alzheimer's difference from mild cognitive impairment.
You
But my
know,
impairment is from Alzheimer pathology.
so we could talk about this, I think, forever, which is part of actually, it had, I love this because I had not planned it to be this way, but it is part of the problem we're all trying to solve.
Absolutely.
And that is the chaotic medical infrastructure around cognitive impairment and cognitive diseases, and in our case, specifically Alzheimer's. So, as people may know, but I was diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment um, in 2018, and I had the PET scan with contrast, which showed that I have amyloid plaque.
Mhm.
I do
You
not
do?
have tau. I do not have tau. Now, tau, I understand, and you haven't said it quite this way, so forgive me, but it is a little bit more advanced than just having amyloids. Um, Now, I'm told that mine is Alzheimer's. You're saying it's in your medical world, it's the language is different. And I'm not saying right or wrong. It is because I've experienced those differences in other ways as well. And um, and so we're on that journey, and um, yeah, it is. I think it actually is a great setup for this. How do we find things out? How do we know what it means? And they are life-changing diagnoses. Um, I'll even you said you were prompted in part by trying to find more information once you got the diagnosis.
Mhm.
And you can talk about that. We had, in my play, people know I'm the play in now in the book. The first doctor said you have no, he didn't say Alzheimer's. You had an MCI, and here's Aricept, and good luck.
Well,
And
I was told you've got 6 months capacity and 2 years to live, get your affairs in order and prepare to die.
thanks
And
a
that
lot,
was
right?
2.5 years ago.
Thank God he didn't quite do that. And then, we finally got in to see a different doctor, and our doctor, the second doctor, was the one who got us the PET scan, and able to find get the PET scan. by and large said, well, you have Alzheimer's disease. Um, we'll see you every 3 months and every 6 months. Goodbye. Uh, his body language, as I say in my play, said, this is not good news. Hell, not good news. He just told me I had a terminal disease. But he didn't say that to me. You got that.
I got that, but I didn't get anything else.
And our doctor then just said, oh, here's some galantamine, and we'll see you every other week. Now, what I love, so what I love is we're both trying to change the world in some ways, change this um, broken system we live in. Um,
Well,
I've
and
I've written a play and I've got a book with some resources, but you've done something differently.
I've done a couple things differently. I was in a drug study through University of California, Irvine,
Well,
and
I was in a drug study too.
okay. And one of the things that that did, in addition to providing me with an opportunity to be on a medication that had positive side effects, so I really do believe that I was on the drug because they can't tell you. But it had positive side effects that weren't just tied to the dementia and the memory loss issues that I'm having. But it also gave me some other information, and one of them was that I am a double copy of APOE4. And that kind of lit me on fire because I want this to change because I had to give my daughter one. If I have two copies of it, I gave her one, and that puts her at risk. And what you and I are going through has to be better for the next generation.
So I think we're related. We have to be related. Well, no, I say that. So thank
Well, you're
you.
definitely in my dementia family.
So briefly, this is really useful. I love that I never plan these things. We don't have this lined out. Like first we say this. So we're going to get to the website, everybody. So hang on, because we're going to walk through that and how to find it and give you the link. And I have one instance of APOE4. It's funny that really early on with 23andMe, they had told me, because right now they charge you extra to give you your genetic risk. But at the time, they said I had an instance of an APOE4 that increased slight increase for risk of Alzheimer's. I I had not seen Alzheimer's in my family. And so I didn't think much about it, and I didn't think I had it. Um, and I also said I had some gene that slightly high risk for Parkinson's, which I have not developed, but I had never seen it in our family. I've since found the side of the family, my grandmother on my father's side, um, and so it's there. But the double having two instances. So having one instance, I'm told, increases the risk 15 to 20, but having two, it could be as much as 30 to 50% more likely from what the norm is. And there have been some studies which you may or may not have seen, I think it was out of India or someplace, that made the argument that if you have two instances of APOE4, assume you have Alzheimer's.
Yeah, the numbers that I was given were 40% with one and 70% with two.
And you're probably
And
right.
so many of our treatments are, it's not a foregone conclusion that you're going to get it because you could have gotten killed in a car accident in 20. And so that's why so many of the tactics for dealing with it at this point are to slow the progression and delay a response
Right,
to keep quality of life for as long as you possibly can.
right. And part of that is keeping busy, like making websites, writing plays, um, doing things. You'll write a book too pretty soon, I'm
Pillars
sure.
of Brain Health. Support that sucker.
uh, yeah, yeah. And, it is, also it's a thing we have to everybody ultimately has to come to terms with. Um, I'm in a my instance experience was slightly different in that my wife Susan, now 59 years, 9 months, and 27 days, but who's counting? Um,
You're just treasuring everyone. She's
she,
delightful.
and she went through, in the early 2000s, had breast cancer, and they thought they found a post-double mastectomy lump. The doctors went dark, and they told me she wasn't going to make it, like a definitive. So we've had this interesting double experience of getting ready for something that's very difficult, which it, many, many people go through it. So in some ways to be able to talk about it, right, whether it's Alzheimer's or some other disease, I think it's useful for others, I hope. I mean, because I'm like you, we want, and I don't want to speak for you, but I heard you say you want your journey to mean something. It means something positive. And so do I. That's why I do this.
It's that, and because I do have the genetic component, I want it to be better for the next generation, like my daughter.
Yeah. Well, I don't know whether well, I have two adult children and four grandchildren. They have not tested. They don't know. I would like them to, but at this moment, because even though I don't only have one, that doesn't mean they don't have one, because they could inherit it from me or their children. You know, my grandchildren may have one.
Mhm.
So, yeah, yeah. Um, so we go through this, I don't know, moments of time after diagnoses and further diagnoses, and but and what you chose to do, I guess recently or been working on for a while.
It's been a while now because it actually started before I found any resources because the doctor certainly didn't give me any of them.
Yes, it was interesting. Again, just a brief aside, but when Susan had breast cancer back in the 2000s, there were already breast navigators. They were just being organized people who can help you navigate the journey of a serious disease. Now, in 2024, um, Medicare started covering breast navigation, that they will pay for you to hire somebody or have somebody in the medical world help someone with breast cancer navigate. There is now what's called the GUIDE program, which is it is in a trial stage. I think it's like for going to be 7 or 8 years, but the GUIDE refers to an infrastructure that people with Alzheimer's um, can get help. You can get your own guide, like instead of a navigator, a guide, a medical professional who is assigned to you, or you can assign, you can find in your community. And it's in many communities. But in the meantime, we've had to um, go out for ourselves. And I love the story I tell. And then we're going to is, the first thing I did, what I suspect many would do, is get on Google on Alzheimer's and uh, start reading about it. And I still remember finding this linked on the website there's a woman saying, my husband had all the diagnosed with Alzheimer's and I made this soup for him and it cured me for 1995. Order my soup recipe. So there's the other thing. There are so many will cure yous, and there is no cure at the moment. But there are things we can do.
Right.
And that's so I'm gonna click on share and have you walk through us for us. Um, I hope. And can you can you see the share?
You've got it.
Up there?
So just a little bit on it. In terms of that first diagnosis, when I was told to basically go home and wrap up my life, from there, it was let's start Googling everything related to dementia. And I was familiar with it because both of my parents passed of Alzheimer's. A great grandmother did. My father-in-law also had the disease. So I'd seen the road, but everybody that I'd seen with it was old, quite frankly. And I didn't find anything. But I kept looking and I kept looking and I kept looking. And the way that I ended up breaking into dementia community was a Facebook group where I had to tell somebody that I had a dementia diagnosis to be able to be a part of Facebook Memory Warriors. And
Hmm.
nobody should have to risk telling a stranger online that you have dementia in order to get help. My husband was prepared to lock down all of our accounts and shut down my entire world, but it was a risk that I needed to take. And fortunately, that was somebody that I was speaking to that was on the advisory board for Dementia Action Alliance. And from there, I ended up finding community and other people.
So
But in the 4 months, what was that?
Dementia Action Alliance, we're both part of that. They're
Mhm.
part of something called the Eden Alternative. But I don't know off the top of my head, but it's DAA dot. Do you know?
DAAnow.org
Okay, for
is their
people.
website.
Yeah. So it's,
And on Facebook, it's Memory Warriors.
I did not, I see now, I'm not in Memory Warriors. I'm
You're
thinking,
not.
I
Come
can't believe,
join.
how can that be? I'm writing it down, people, because I wouldn't remember it if I didn't. Okay. Okay. All right. There we go. Um,
So at that point, then I had community and I was able to. Dementia Action Alliance has a lot of wonderful enrichment programs that range from chair yoga to discussions and conversations where sometimes people will talk about their workarounds to make their way through a difficult situation with their dementia, or they'll just be sharing their life experience to normalize it so that you don't feel so alone and you don't feel quite as crazy.
yeah.
Um, And in those points, sometimes people would ask questions about trying to find a particular resource. And since by this time I had been scouring the internet for 4 to 6 months, I had a lot of resources. So I'd be searching through my search history and going, I got that one. I got that one. And I'd be sending it in the chat. And that got really messy and distracting. But the other part was it could take me 10 minutes of scrolling through my search history to find the right resource that I wanted to give the person.
Well, you know,
So
just, when Susan and I started looking, what was funny. Now, we had a relatively negative view, though it's changing, of the Alzheimer's Association because our experience had been they just want money from me. Now, and then we found a number of so-called support groups, but they ended up being groups that met at senior living in our area, and they were just marketing for the senior living facility. So we
my
ended up,
experience was a little bit different
but we
because
ended,
I was the care provider for my parents.
yeah,
When I was the care provider for my parents, they were my lifeline.
yeah,
My first exposure was actually when my mother tried to kidnap my daughter at a funeral, and they referred me to Maria Shriver's children's book of how to explain dementia to my daughter because Colonel Shriver passed of Alzheimer's.
yes.
Um, but they also helped me with, I was up close and personal care provider for my mom, and I was joint care provider out of state for my dad with my two sisters and my brother. We all kind of teamed did it and had different roles. But they gave me training on some of the medical stuff to do with my mom. They gave me some strategic things in terms of how to navigate my dad, some things to navigate with the healthcare, some things to navigate with the legal. So I appreciated what they did, But then when I turned in to say, now I'm the one with the disease, how can you help me? They gave me a 6 session wrap up your life course.
Wow.
And then they were pretty much done. And I know that since then they've gotten a couple of things. But at that point, they had about a dozen things for late stage. So it was adult day programming for people that were mid to late stage, but nothing for early onset.
Yeah.
And that's not enough because dementia is a challenge even early on.
Yeah.
All cognitive impairment is a challenge.
Well, and again, dementia, I hate that word. And I think there are movements to change how we talk
Brain
about this.
change.
And the medical term for um, cognitive decline is neurocognitive disorder, major or minor. And that's
That's a
DSM.
mouthful.
Yeah, well, yes, it is. Though it is the medical term, and it was changed in 2013. I think it's important. It's not just you and me who are irritated by it and don't like the name attached to us, or at least me. It is, and of course, the shorthand for that is cognitive disorder. Um, and there is a movement out there to have Congress pass a bill, just like they did to get rid of the word retarded, to have the federal government start using neurocognitive disorder, which hopefully to create a larger change that will have a cognitive disorder. And major or minor, or what is it, frontal lobal? Is it Alzheimer's? It's what is it? And dementia is, and I get, so you call it dementia resources. It's on the screen. I get, well, if you hate the word dementia so much, how come you call your play Dementia Man? Yeah, well, right now it's what the word is. Uh,
Well, and I think dementia has kind of taken cancer's place in terms of the stigmatized disease because people
yeah.
used to be afraid of and shun people with cancer. And now they pity and are afraid of people that have dementia. And it's a word, it's an accurate word. And I think that if we use it in a context that describes the disease and the process and not just the condemnation and the narrative of your life is over and everything is now worthless, that we can reclaim the word or we can find another one.
Well, I would argue, Julie, that the word is an adjective. That it's like, well, that's a blue sky. Well, you're a demented person. You look different, act different, are different, and that's my complaint. I have a cognitive disorder. I
Yes.
experience the world differently. Now, there will be a time. Well, so you have a. I'm going to jump to so because
Back to the
we're going to
website.
lose people if we're on too
Absolutely.
long. And this is so people, I think people can see deme, dementiaresources.com. I'm at start here, but it's dementiaresources.
Dementia-resources.com.
Yeah. And I think people can see it. I think you can see it. And I love the design and the blue flowers, not purple. Uh, and what kind of flower is that, or is it just a flower?
It's a forget-me-not, which is
Oh,
actually the emblem of dementia, but not the Alzheimer's Association is what's purple. Dementia is actually
yes.
the pale blue.
Well, see, I keep learning already, people. We're learning here.
And I like that it's watercolors because watercolors are a kind of paint that if you add water to it, it kind of fades. And that just really seems symbolic of the memories of they get watered down and sometimes washed away.
And so this is the first phrase where it's start here. You come up here and start here. Um, and what would you suggest? What would you like me to click on first? Well, let me go down and just here's some more support, guidance, and trusted resources.
Ron's got a little bit better with the map than I am on this.
Okay,
Ron.
so
Who is this, by the way?
This
Who
is
is
my
it?
husband, Ron. He's my care partner,
Yeah, I also
and
some.
he's got a little bit more tech than I do. We did end up sending this to a professional web designer, and but he's going to also be doing a lot of the maintenance on the website as we continue to
So,
have it
so
developed.
Ron, I'm going to give you in real time here um, a note from my experience with being the um, husband of a wife who was diagnosed with a terminal. And I decided, I came to understand that I had two roles. One was care partner. I gave care. There was a summer where the doctor said, yeah, she should go on this trip with you to LA. And I later understood they thought she'd never be able to go to a political convention because she was going to pass. And I had to shoot her in the stomach with every day, but with the syringe. That's giving care. But she was also, I was also in love with her, so I was her love partner. And I think those roles are distinct. And one is giving care and helping, the other is coping with our breaking heart. And they are both real, and I don't think so. And they both can be supported with each other. So here we go. We're on our club members, but too. So where should we start?
well, let me get just a little bit more history. When Julie first came to me, she had all of these resources she'd collected, and she asked me if there was some way I could organize them for her so she could find them easier. And so we categorized them and put them in a document, a PDF file, so she could share the whole list. But even the list got really big, and it was, getting close to 200 websites. And as we were sending it out to people, they would tell us that it would make a really great website. And so we took this to a friend of the family who has a web design service, and they put it together for us. They were so impressed with what Julie had collected and how it was very patient facing. It was for the people living with brain change and to a certain extent for their care partners, but mostly it was for people themselves that were in early stage or mid stage that were looking for resources, but they didn't want to try and fish through what the search engines provided in whatever order they did. They wanted something that was a little more curated. So what we've done is tried to organize it as if, like, when you go to the start here, it starts with information under information and guides for people who are newly diagnosed. So if you start there, it'll bring up a list of resources that are different organizations providing information like action plans for what do you do when you first get a diagnosis. And then the rest of it is kind of divided up into how Julie was looking for it and how it divided up. So we've got if you go back to the top and click on Learn, one of the first segments is scroll down a little bit. National and international organizations. Who are the big players in the field? And there's a lot of organizations there that you can scroll down through and maybe the help that you need is somewhere in one of those organizations, but we've got all the ones listed out that we're aware of that are
Well,
very
I
broad.
don't see Dementia Man on there. I'm sorry.
You're going
You're
to
in
be in
a
a different
different
place.
category. You're in a different category, Sam. And that's the other thing too, is that we're still collecting websites because as you can tell from just my position, we're in Southern California. So there are some things that are heavily California or even Orange County. But when people send me something in Texas or Wisconsin, or New York, I don't have a problem with putting that in. I just have to find a place for it and have it organized and have it so that somebody in Southern California isn't looking to go into the office of somebody in New York.
So yeah, a little bit longer term, we intend to have state-specific pages for all 50 states. But at the present, because we live in California, the only one we have built out is California's.
So let me just do two things. Oh, well, there you are, right up there top. You know, it's sort of the self-talk to how I did I thought I was a bright, smart guy and knew everything. And it took me a long time to and I kept running into some shady things. And when I discovered Alzheimer's.gov, I was stunned. It's like, duh, why wouldn't, and this is, and real quick, I had a story about it. First of all, it is a federal government resource around Alzheimer's, and they do have patient links and related support. It's not some lady making soup for her husband or some, uh, even some bigger names. My own doctor gave me the book called The End of Alzheimer's, which is by Dr. Bredesen, which invites you to pay 10,000 a week to go to his clinics and get on the keto diet, right? And it's hard to know what's reliable. So first of all, love that you have that there. Obviously, it's a great. They're struggling a little bit in the current environment because the budgets have been cut. Susan and I called their offices to say, how you guys doing? Just checking in. And they said, we're doing well. We just aren't, creating much new right now. And, we have some flyers. Would you like to have a few? I said, sure, send them to us. I gave them our address. UPS showed up with 3 boxes. Oh, no, my wife corrected me last time. 6 boxes of their flyers, which meant that they were trying to make sure that if they were shut down, these were still out there, but it was interesting. So I just had my take. So I love this. It is so thank you. It is so important to have these reliable. Uh, and by the way, I'm sure you'll find it, but I've also discovered in Virginia that there are state offices. Um, in Virginia, the Virginia State Department of Aging has an Alzheimer's office. They presented my play. Finally, we were good. And in fact, interestingly enough, Virginia specific, sorry, our new governor, Abigail Spanberger's mother, it turns out, is very involved in this field. And she works with the state Alzheimer's office, not professionally, but supports their activity. But again, finding your state resource, but all these I'm just a fan. You got me excited already. Let's keep going. Uh, so just a lot of really,
Oh. Yeah, it turns out that there is actually a lot of resources out there, but they're not always easy to find or to know, which one you're looking for. And so we tried to do a little bit of that curating for you by dividing them up on the pages where, if you kind of have an idea of what you're looking for, we can kind of get you to a selection of resources for that we've done a little bit of vetting on. We're not endorsing any particular website or their content, but if we found them when we were looking and found value in it, we put it up there.
and most of these are, I mean, I am now familiar with that, but, yeah, yeah.
And we're primarily looking at nonprofits and government agencies as opposed to individual businesses.
Right. But, well, and there's also and I think we're going to get you guys to put up, if you haven't already, how to get one of the lanyards.
Right, and they're on my list. We have a lanyard, and they're on my list of resources to add. I didn't have a place for them yet
Yeah,
in the organization as the site is up.
I
You know,
think
it's always
VAA.
going to be a work in progress.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
But we wanted to get it up, even though it's incomplete and always
Well,
will, be,
you
because
know,
it's so important to get the resources out there in a way that people can access them.
yeah. No, you're right. And hopefully there'll always be more new good things that come up. Um, but finding them, like you said, is a real challenge.
Well, and that's one of the things too, because being a part of community, as you know, because we've been in community together, there are a lot of resources. And so if I go into one of the dementia chats or if I'm on Memory Warriors and somebody suggests one, I'll go check it out. And if I think that it's appropriate, then I'll add it. And if somebody comes to me and says, I really, really need information on hallucinations, I've got Lewy body, then I can look for information here on that. And I can look for things on the Lewy body site and the Parkinson's site. And I can look for things that have to do with managing hallucinations.
So if you click back on Learn again, and we'll scroll down a little bit below the national organizations, there's a box there in the center for other dementias besides Alzheimer's. And that's an area that we're building out. We just got a bunch more Parkinson's resources and Lewy body resources today that will be going in there shortly. We're actually going to divide Parkinson's and Lewy out into its own subcategory on that page because of how many resources I'm coming across.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting because we've seen, so much in our life over time. We've seen know people who've had Parkinson's, know people who have had Lewy body in our own communities
And
too.
now we're finding out how related they are.
So plan, I'm
Planning
gonna,
ahead has a lot of the stuff you're supposed to look at when someone tells you to get your affairs in order. So there's things about advanced directives and legal assistance for wills and estate planning and fraud avoidance and some resources on how to navigate Medicare. Um,
so again, we almost got into it earlier, but first things we were told to do or figured out to
Get your
do,
affairs in order.
went to our uh, um, estate lawyer,
Mhm.
and he immediately said, "Get my name off of all legal documents, and including bank accounts." Now we do have family trust, and we put everything like the houses and important stuff into trust. But Susan's a trustee into her trust, not mine. And I'm watched. They haven't taken me off the checkbook just yet, but
They haven't taken you off of that checkbook just yet.
it just is. And but yeah. Um, so that is so really so important. Um,
Well,
Susan,
and further on along, in terms of the death-related matters, if you've got preferences for your end-of-life care, you need to make those known.
yeah, and we're gonna not get you. I think Julie, you and I have already know we don't fully agree on some of this. I'm not sure.
Right, but at the same time, even if you're looking at smaller things like, are you going to stay home? Are you going to go to a facility?
Yeah,
Do you want, do you feel comfortable with your family coming in to see you? Because some people honestly don't. And
yeah.
so, do you want people from your faith-based? And if you do, what is your faith base coming in? Those are the kinds of things that somebody needs to know if you expect them to happen.
And I think in our last conversation, and I my caution on top of this, maybe you guys can add it or not, is that as time passes, we don't know how we will be or feel like. So I meant so there is op-ed in the New York Times by two brothers who are doctors whose dad had been a doctor. The dad had told him, and it was in his directive, I don't want to be like that, pointed to somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia. If I get like that, don't treat me if I get sick. So years pass, he becomes like that. He gets dementia. He's in a memory center and he's happy, but he gets pneumonia. And the question says, should we,
Do we give him
with
antibiotics?
right, should we treat him or not? His directive said don't, but he was happy. They followed the directive, but their advice to others was have a committee. Don't be too specific, but have people who will know you and be able to fairly reflect your views at the time it happens, as opposed to maybe something done 20 years earlier and it was never updated. So that's so long story. That's not how we haven't done that yet, but mine is I have chosen to always be treated, but that was been my choice. But let's keep going over this because this is real. See, but these are really all the things that face people. I mean, they're not small. Uh, and so having a resource and having it together, in the same place is so helpful. So, and then, this is also Elder Fraud Month, by the way, Elder Fraud Awareness Month. And again, the risk of getting ripped off and including fake. I had some guy call me up. So my play was featured in the Washington Post. It's online. It's got 35,000 views. Some guy calls me up. He's got this new invention. Put it on your heel, and it'll pump the blood to your heart. And the problem is just not enough blood in your brain. Everything else is bullshit, he says. He was going to come to my house and put this device on my foot. And I listened to him a little bit only because he said he was working to get FDA approval. But at least at any rate, it's just another thing to be aware that. And again, it's so important in thanking you. Yeah,
Right. And so, yeah, we've got links about care. Head over to community. That was one of the things that Julie really wanted. It was almost the origin of it all is, you know, if you don't have
Community,
community
yeah.
resources in your local area, where can you find community? Because Orange County doesn't have any kind of a support group for early onset people. So,
So if I were limited to Orange County, I never would have found you, Sam.
no, thank God we found each other. Oh, boy.
But yeah, if you go up to community, then that's going to talk about a lot of the groups that we've been in together. So you've got your Dementia Action Alliance, you've got your Dementia Minds, you've got your Dementia Mentors, you've got your Dementia Action International.
so yeah, click on the online support meetings tab on the left there. And those are organizations that all sponsor online support group meetings.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. And I'm a big fan of Tifa Snow. We've been guests on her show once, but I have been trained as like in theatrical improv, and an integral part of this caregiver role is yes anding, and Tifa is a big advocate for that. So again, terrific resources that like you, but like so many of us, you get a diagnosis and it takes years to begin to find this stuff. So having it in a single place is so important.
Well, and one of the other things, because Dementia Action Alliance will periodically send out pamphlets to medical care providers. But every time we send them, it's an expense. And every time we send them, we send 20 or 50. And they go through them. And one of the things that I really like about this website is it's just one line of text. You can put it, for all intents and purposes, you could put it on your prescription pad as a
Yeah,
resource that you're giving everybody.
yeah.
And you're not going to run out. Your 21st person can still have access to the information.
There's your story. So um, now I'm going to stop sharing now. So I think if we're on too long, people won't stay to the end, and I wanted them to see everything and be able to get this. And thank you so much for being and doing this. And it's patient based, and I think that that's so important that what what is developed or is developing seems to be a patient-based cohort around the diseases, as opposed to a purely medical world. And
And that's one of the things that comes out of the earlier detection. And that's one of the things that comes out of being able to find community and have the workarounds and to try to beat some of the stigma and to realize that I didn't die in 2 years and I didn't lose capacity in 6 months. And I still have capacity and I still need to get busy.
yeah, and which is another argument for me against the word dementia, which evokes end stage. And to me, it does, as opposed to a demented person is mad, crazy, or insane. We aren't that, and we struggle. And, there's, so I'm an advocate that we begin
Brain
implement,
change.
well, we begin implementing accommodations in the civil society, just like we do for people in wheelchairs,
Right.
people with disability.
Mhm.
And again, the word dementia plays into the idea, well, there's nothing you can do for them. They won't be out there, they being you and me. And yet we ran into this early on when I performed in Iowa at a very large senior living center who worked with the local university geriatric department. Uh, to bring accommodations at the local grocery stores. So there were the carriages that said dementia on it. There was a lane that had the uh, yellow lanyard kind of thing in it that said, go here. So if you're very slow in getting your stuff, you're not holding everybody up and you're not getting. I think almost any store can have a trained person and a desk with some yellow flowers on it. And you and
Well,
I could go in, and if we needed help, we would know where to go.
and that's also one of the things that Dementia Action Alliance has had some of the people on the board working on is some of the reasonable accommodations that ADA should implement. And it's as simple as giving banks instructions to, if you see somebody that's suddenly bouncing checks, call the second number on the account and see if something's going on. Or the maitre d' at the restaurant. If there's somebody that's having some trouble, let them sit against the wall so that they have fewer noises being their distractions. And so many of those kinds of accommodations make life so much more accessible. And I come from a background of having had a different hidden disability and have had to advocate for that for my entire life. And it's a matter of if you tell me what's going on, I can make the adjustments so that I don't have to miss out and I can be included and I can live my life. But sometimes I'm going to need to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, you
And
are
this is
you are
another disease that does the same thing.
you are a gem, though. The fact that you go have done this and are such an advocate, and we're lucky. I think it's a blessing that we're able to do it. I'm branding myself as a troublemaker. Um, the line in my play is.
They brand me that way too.
I said, I talk about my dad, who was a traveling salesman, and I say, think Willie Loman. My mother is a young lady in New Orleans, was a flamenco dancer. She never graduated high school. And I said, but I think I was born a troublemaker. Four sisters, three older than me. What else was I going to do? And I went to work for Ralph Nader, and I still do cause trouble. But and we say all that, and it's just being a voice, and it's not everybody. I'm not shaming people who don't. Not everybody is natural, or that isn't. I'm good at some things and not other things. There was this other guy who had somebody talking about disability had been diagnosed with um, pancreatic cancer, and he was much shorter lifespan, but he wrote a book. But he had been a program director. I'm an idea person. I have 1,000 ideas. Getting one to this is a guy who said in his book, he said, "Well, all right, here's the diagram. If this happens, then you do that, and if that happens, you can do this. But if it's something else, and how you navigate your disease." And
Maps are
me,
great.
I'm not that person, though.
I'm not
Uh,
going to necessarily build your map, but I'm more of the throw everything against the wall and see what sticks.
yeah, well, that's well organized, and it is so important. Um, and I'm not even going to mention, well, people know how to reach me on my website. Going to that is going to, and I'll put a link on, you'll have a link from our website. Because it is finding, that was the beginning of hard, and it sounds like we're sharing this. The hardest thing to do once diagnosed with this particular disease was finding reliable, good, consumer-oriented content and information and guidance and
To find resources and to find community and to be able to have comfort in the authenticity of each, that it wasn't going to be a scam.
thank you. With that, what a summary. Well, we'll see you soon, and
Absolutely.
I hope everybody else will see your work and your blessing. And thanks, Ron, for being our help for both of us. We got to find a way to get Susan, Sam, and Ron and Julie together. I don't know how, but we'll make it happen.